In this video, tayo ay mag-i-evaluate ng trigonometric functions. This is the first time that we shall do this. Paano nga ba ulit tayo nag-i-evaluate ng trigonometric function of an angle t? So, ang una natin ginagawa, hinahanap natin ang kanyang reference angle. And then we will evaluate ano ang value ng ating function at the reference angle. And then, we will append the sign. The sign is positive ba siya or negative? That depends on the quadrant which contains the terminal side of our original angle. Let us evaluate cosine of 9 pi over 4. So 9 pi over 4, let us sketch it. It's the same as 2 pi and pi over 4. So that's 2 pi and then may sobra siyang pi over 4. Ito ang ating reference angle. It's equal to pi over 4. Our next task is to append the sign, siya ba ay positive or negative. So, ang ating 9 pi over 4, it is in the first quadrant, so positive dyan ang ating cosine. So, it's going to be positive cosine of pi over 4 or simply cosine of pi over 4. What is cosine of pi over 4? It is square root of 2 over 2. Saan nanggaling ang square root of 2 over 2? Nanggaling yan sa ating wrapping function. When t is equal to pi over 4, yung point of intersection between the unit circle and our terminal side of our angle is square root of 2 over 2 and square root of 2 over 2. Yun ang x and y coordinates. At pag cosine, pinipili natin yung x coordinate. When I was a student, nung hindi ko pa siya lubos na naunawaan, ang ginagawa ko, sinasaulo ko yung malaking table na ang dami ng laman. But it turns out na actually, ang sasauluhin mo lamang dito is yung first two rows. T and W of t. W of t is the point of intersection between the terminal side of your angle t and the unit circle in standard position. Pag saulo mo na yung points of intersection na yon, madali nang matandaan yung anim na circular functions of t. Yung first coordinate ng point of intersection is cosine of t. Yung second coordinate is your sine of t. Let us evaluate sine of 5 pi over 2. 5 pi over 2 is the same as 2 pi and pi over 2. So, ang ating reference angle dito is pi over 2. Positive ang value ng ating sine when t is pi over 2. So, sine of 5 pi over 2 is the same as sine of pi over 2. Okay, next, hanapin natin ang value ng ating wrapping function when t is pi over 2. So, yung ating point of intersection between the terminal side of our angle and our unit circle is the point with coordinates 0, 1. So, ang ating value ng sine of pi over 2 is equal to 1. Okay, next, let us evaluate tangent of 5 pi over 6. Okay, 5 pi over 6. So, ang ating angle is nasa second quadrant. O, ano naman ang ating reference angle? Yun ang ating reference angle, it's pi over 6. Sa second quadrant, ang ating tangent function is less than 0. So, negative siya. So, we will append the negative sign dito sa ating tangent of pi over 6. Let us use our wrapping function to evaluate tangent of pi over 6. So, when t is pi over 6, w of pi over 6 is, yan ang coordinates ng ating point of intersection. So, tangent of pi over 6 is sine over cosine. It's equal to square root of 3 over 3. Tangent of 5 pi over 6 is the same as negative of tangent of pi over 6, which is negative square root of 3 over 3. Let us now evaluate second of 4 pi over 3. So, sketch muna natin ng 4 pi over 3. It's pi and pi over 3. Pi and pi over 3. So, tayo ay nasa third quadrant. At yung black arc represents our reference angle. So, ang reference angle natin dito is pi over 3. So, this is the same as second of pi over 3. Kaya nga lang, we must take note kung positive ba to or negative. So, we must append the sign. So, second of t is equal to 1 over cosine of t. Nasa third quadrant tayo. Ang second is negative. So, mag-append tayo ng negative sign. Again, mag-append tayo ng negative sign kasi ang angle natin is in the third quadrant. It should be third quadrant, not second quadrant. Sorry. Ano naman ang value ng second of pi over 3? Ano nga ba uli ang value ng ating wrapping function when t is pi over 3? So, ang cosine, or I mean ang second of t is 1 over cosine of t. So, negative second of pi over 3 is negative 1 over 1/2, which is negative 2.